This is the Game Philosopher, and today I'm going to be talking about whether or not you can be a Platonist if you do not agree with paganism, or whether it's the form of paganism in the pantheistic sense, like Platonists, or the paganism as in traditional sense of the term, of the polytheism of living in the traditional pantheon. And the answer actually should be not surprising because Platonism has not only, as I described earlier in this channel, uh, influenced Christianity, Judaism, and Islam even. And in particular, there are a few uh, Platonists I would really like to talk about today before I talk about whether or not atheism can be Platonic. Now, first, giving the groundworks that Philo, of course, is the earliest I can think of when it comes to non-pagan Platonist. In fact, he might be considered a Jewish pantheist because he pretty much takes the whole entire notion of the creation account from Genesis and says that the Logos created the world and the Logos emanated from God. And so there's one example of a Platonist, and really his ideas are very unique. And I said in the last video I'd talk about him some. A lot of his works, as shown here, are very allegorical and amazing. He does a little bit on drunkenness, on sobriety, creation, of course, dreams, life of Moses, Abraham, the laws of Judaism, explains how the world is eternal. He even has an interesting account of anti-Semitism that happened by some of the Roman governors at his time period. Just need a little bit of gamer fuel, also known as pitch black on view. So, of course, the big thing about Philo, though, is that some people say that he has some Stoic influence. I wouldn't doubt it because a lot of times in the Middle Platonic era, you have Plutarch and Philo as our two primary sources, but they actually saw a lot more influenced by Zeno of Citium's followers, the Stoics. Of course, at the same time, Platonism was a little bit more eastward than westward. Of course, you had Cicero's academics in the West, and Cicero tried to create a new Platonicism through his Aristotelian methods and his study of Greek philosophy in general. Whether or not he's successful is up to you. Some people think he's more Stoic than anything, but that's usually people who go to Stoic forums. And because of Seneca tried to claim Cicero as his own, or our own, as you'd say, which would mean the Stoic school. Now, some could say interpretively that our own would mean the Roman Republic or the Roman people, which would make a lot more sense, but open to interpretation right here. I would like to say that with Seneca, he tends to say our own as in belonging to the school of Stoicism, because he was kind of nationalistic, kind of not, but at the same time, whenever he uses a similar expression, it's talking about like our own Zeno, our own Chrysippus, stuff like that. Now, talking about further into the whole idea of Philo's philosophy, one of the most interesting things is during his talks, he talks about how dreams in the Bible, or during the time the Torah, the Tanakh, would be God sent, and how God sent dreams are, and at the same time, you look at his allegorical dream, like his allegorical analysis. It's very interesting to think about how we could think about this for a modern Platonicism. Maybe we could have dreams as the reflection of the one and the connection from the one. As we think about these dreams and what they mean to us personally. And, well, of course, I reject prophetic dreams because I don't have any really concrete evidence, although I have had really weird dreams in the past where, for example, as a child during Christmas I would dream about a certain toy which would actually arrive the next day, and I've heard really weird stories about someone dreaming about a poster and suddenly their poster falls on their head. So there might be some proof towards prophetic dreaming, but at the same time we can't really say for sure because those are pretty much happenstance. You dream thousands and thousands of dreams, maybe millions throughout your whole entire lives. Approximately billions or trillions, whatever. I think it would be kind of stupid to try to count how many dreams you have throughout your whole entire life, because you have to take your life and rather someone for you, because you'd be dead at the end of your life. So you have to take all these dreams, you reduce the amount of nights someone has slept, then you probably get a roughly nice number, although it's assuming that someone has had a really good life when it comes to their sleep patterns and they're able to sleep each night. And not only that, but you also have deep sleepers who they don't remember the dreams except for the last bits of it. Actually, no one really remembers all the dreams, but these deep sleepers, they don't remember all the dreams at all, and they might open their eyes and they might have a little they don't necessarily open their eyes and they close their eyes and they imagine things, but they might be so deep in their sleep that they don't remember it. They don't recall anything from that night before, and that's one thing. And the reason why is because, let's be honest, some of the dreams late at night would actually scare us shitless because the DMT in the mind, it's very, how to say it, frightening. So you have really bad nightmares every night, from what we know from modern science. But these nightmares are not really nightmares because you don't remember them during your deepest phase of sleep. And some people get night terrors, and that's terrible. So anyway, I think the whole idea of dream interpretation is actually a pretty good thing. You should look at dreams in an allegorical way and you'll see very interesting results. And you might even be able to think of new and more relevant things towards your life. In fact, some people actually think that the dreams are actually your subconscious mind communicating with you. I think that was a Freudian theory, and Carl Jung talks about it a lot too. So I'd say that as a modern Platonist, I'm actually for dream interpretation, and I do it quite some whenever I see an interesting dream, because I get really weird dreams. Now, since we're 9 minutes into the video, I would like to stop talking about Philo. Now I'm going to be talking about other philosophers who are not pagan but still Platonic. After Philo, the next big one I think would be St. Augustine. St. Augustine, I've mentioned him before because he's been relevant, such as his critique of theurgy and talking about how he doesn't believe in demon worship and that there's no such a thing as good demons. But he wrote this really interesting, and that's in the City of God, but he also wrote a few other really interesting books. In fact, I'll actually recommend two today, other than City of God, so I guess that's three of them. He could explain Christian doctrine and Christian law, and he would explain it in this very Platonic way. In fact, in his confession, the interesting thing is how Platonism actually played a role in his conversion to Christianity, because when he was a cultist for this one pagan cult, he actually got introduced to this really great Platonic intellectual who was also a Christian. Now this was not new, because a lot of Christians were Platonic ultimately, like Justin Martyr, who obviously predate Augustine. But Augustine, he left the Christianity, then he returned when he met this Platonist to explain to him all these different things about Christianity and Platonism, and he found that certain parts of the Christian religion actually helped him find more eudaimonia, or sa'ada, or whatever term you want to use, the greatest happiness. And he found this greatest happiness through these Christian teachings. And so these answers that he found in the Christian faith, mixed with this education in the Platonic doctrine, and he combined the two together and created the basis of later Christian Neoplatonism. Now, of course, the earlier ones are kind of interesting because they kind of are stronger on the Platonic side than they are on the Christian side. Although at the same time, they would defend Christianity, and you would have really interesting stuff published, like from Oregon through, is it Oregon or Origin? I don't know. But anyway, he would publish things like how the soul is recycled, which, are Platonic ideas, but he would say that within a Christian context. And anyway, going on to Boetius. Boetius, he's a much more interesting Neoplatonist from this tradition of Christian Neoplatonism. And his book, Consolidations of Philosophy, shown right here. It's a great book. It talks about wisdom, and it's very allegorical in the sense that it's Boetius as a character talking with the personification of philosophy. And she advises him on the Stoic and Platonist ideas. She deals with the problem of evil. In fact, one of the interesting things it asks is, why else does slippery fortune change so much and punish more fit for crimes oppress the innocent? So, yeah, this book is all about dealing with bad things happening in your life, such as, for example, with Boetius, he was pretty much unjustly put to prison and eventually executed for crimes he did not commit, all because he was a Roman, and the Ostrogoths didn't like the Romans. And so this book was pretty much just him trying to deal with the depression that he was getting from it. So it gives us a very unique perspective on Platonism. Next, I'm going to talk about the Muslim tradition of Platonism. Now, I do not want to miss any, but at the same time, the only Muslim I've read when it comes to Platonism is Al-Farabi. And interesting thing is he mixes Platonism and Aristotelianism. He wrote a really formidable treatise on rhetoric, which was pretty much a commentary on Aristotle's rhetoric, and his main idea pretty much is that a city-state, or a city, should be ruled by what he called a philosopher-prophet, or I guess a philosopher-king, if you want to use the traditional Platonic language. And the whole idea is that the philosopher prophet will try to create what's called sa'ada, which is Yudiman, or Euthrosine. It's kind of both. It translates literally to happiness, but at the same time, it has more to do with eudaimonia, because it's living virtuously, but it's also happiness through this living virtuously, and it's a very beautiful word, sa'ada. And yet he was also very interesting in that he would think about these political systems, and he pretty much gives us concessions for, the ideal conditions are not met, such as, for example, in a society ruled by many, or that if they each have, if the Senate, for example, has each the qualities of what he would consider a great philosophical ruler, what would happen is that you would have a more ideal society. But at the same time, the difficulty is how to create this great system. And so he dealt with a lot of the same issues that Kikero would deal with in his political doctrines. And so at the same time, I'd say that Al-Farabi is very interesting. I'd recommend any book by him. Now, since at the end of the video, since I'm not going to go on to the Renaissance Platonism, because the Neo-Hermetic teachings in it are stuff I think are roughly terrible and they don't understand Platonism well, in my opinion. I'm going to talk about, before I end this video, the atheism and Platonism. Now, if we were to take Philo's example, an atheist could actually become a Platonist if he thinks of the metaphysics as something in purely allegorical terms. And so, thinking of them in a purely allegorical term, you could take an atheistic perspective from a pantheistic perspective, and pretty much an atheist, in my opinion, could be a Platonist. But at the same time, you would have to respect the pantheistic doctrines which are relevant in most of Platonism. Although at the same time, some Platonists are not really pantheistic, so I don't think that would really matter so much. But he'd still have to be very much someone who interprets it allegorically. Otherwise, he would be getting in the way of his own ethical system, because the Platonists believe in Timaeus and Theaetus, all these esoteric doctrines, but with the ethics that you have to escape from the world's way of things, and that means go beyond what the natural world has. Now, this is the end of the video. I will go ahead and give you my 2 books of recommendation. Confessions. This is very interesting because it's just the life of a philosopher who is struggling with his own beliefs. Then he eventually ends up finding his place and becoming a great philosopher. Now, whether or not you're interested in Christian Platonism, this book is very wonderful. And the Augustine Catechism, or in other words, is Interior. This book is very unique because it talks about, in a very blunt way, the Christian doctrine which Augustine would believe in. And so I'd say it's a worthy read because you can understand the Abrahamic Platonism a little bit better if you read Augustine, if you read Al-Farabi, if you read Philo, Pelagius, Pseudo-Dionysius, Justin Martyr, and so on and so on and so on. Guys, have a good day. May you look for your sa'ada. I love that term. I'm just going to use it more. It's just a beautiful term. Alright, so remember to live a good life, cultivate yourself, and be happy.